welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I have special guests with me tonight. They are from the Green Party. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. And if you could also introduce the position that you are running for as well. So I'm going to unmute you, Christina, because I think I muted you here.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello, everybody. My name is Christina DiGiulio. I do have a nickname of PK, hence the quotes in there, and that's in my activism world who people knew me by. I am running for governor of Pennsylvania under the Green Party. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on, Christina. And Liana?
Yes, thank you for having me, Sabby. My name is Liana West, and I am running for governor of Arizona, and I am running as an endorsed candidate of the Arizona Green Party. Thank you.
Awesome. So one of the questions that I ask everybody that comes on this third party or independent candidate is, why did you decide to run, particularly with you, why did you decide to run as a Green? And what does it look like for your area? For example, are more people independents, Democrats, or Republicans? So I'll just go to Christina.
Yes. So I decided to run because like I said, I'm an activist and I've seen things are happening. I've watched the two-party system kind of obstruct our ability to actually talk about justice issues and environmental justice and see action. So like when you're saying my area in Chester County, Pennsylvania is has turned recently, out of 150 years, recently has turned over to blue, and it's a fight between both the GOP and the Democrats. However, the Democrats have a stronghold here, so it's been difficult. We do have we have a lot of people unknown, non-voters that are both sick of a lot of people. It's a common issue here. People are in that cusp of seeing the abuse, and they don't necessarily they kind of want to be survivors and they want to get out of it. So yeah, we have a lot of third parties not represented well, as we're also harmed in Pennsylvania. They don't give us much of an equal chance. So yeah, that's what I have, if that helps.
Awesome. Liana?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. The unique position that Green voters or third party or independent voters in Arizona have at this point in time, independent voters represent more than a third of the total voting bloc in Arizona. And so what that demonstrates is that voters are unhappy with the status quo, and voters want a choice. They desperately want a choice. And that is the reason that I'm running. I'm running as that choice, specifically with the Green Party, because I believe in the 10 key values of the Green Party. I very much appreciate and follow the eco-socialist platform that is with the Green Party. The Green Party, as you know, did draft the original Green New Deal, and we absolutely appreciate everyone giving the Green Party notice when as far as a lot of other politicians talk about the Green New Deal. We really appreciate when that happens. We would like to see the Green New Deal actually come to fruition. And that's what we're prepared to do. I apologize, I forgot the second part of your question, Sabby.
Oh, what are voters like, particularly in your area? Are they mostly independents, Republican, or Democrat?
Well, Arizona has typically been a red state. And we also, in the transition to more Democrats, we, from the state of Arizona, our senator is Kirsten Sinema. And so that individual has put up a lot of obstacles to progressive policies. And so there's a really bad reputation for the Democrats in Arizona right now because of that. Mark Kelly has done somewhat of a good job. Unfortunately, he did vote to continue the war. So what we have in Arizona is the corporate class actually owns both the GOP and the Democrats here in Arizona. So that is what I'm facing.
Well said. Delilah, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself and the position that you're running for.
Hey, Sabby. Thanks so much for having me. Yes, my name's Delilah Barrios. I am running for governor of Texas on the Green Party ticket. And yeah, I've been on before, so I don't know if people are familiar with me or not. But, I'm down here. There's a lot of racists and bigots and barbecue in Texas. And so, and I'm just like a brown woman just here to challenge everyone all the time. And so this is what I'm doing. Yeah, early voting starts next week in Texas, so it's crazy. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. How are you?
Yeah, and Delilah, I also asked them this question, but I want to ask you too, since you live in Texas and a lot of people say that Texas is a red state. Would you say that in your area, voters are more likely to be independent, Democrat, or Republican?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So most voters in this state identify as independent or third party. So, a lot of the polls are of a demographic. You're a Republican demographic, you're a Democratic demographic. And that's what they lead on is like, how would you be likely to vote? And those are really the ones who get, I won't say petition, but they're the ones who get asked to do the polls more than the early polls, because they're paid for by the incumbent and the other big ticket running against them, and so it's really biased when you see the polls about likely voters, because they're usually asking people who identify one way or the other, and so that doesn't really represent a large populace. Like our state is very diverse, and there's a lot of energy all over regarding what people are concerned with. So, but that doesn't automatically mean one ticket color or another. So most people are independent, from my experiences and from what I'm reading and
And this is a perspective that, for those of you watching, this is a perspective that you typically would not hear on mainstream media about a state like Texas. All three of you are gubernatorial candidates, and your states are particularly interesting because I have noticed the Democrat and Republican candidates that are running for governor of your state are not good candidates. None of them. And Christina, I want to start with you because you're coming from land of Fetterman and Oz, and I don't think either one of them are good candidates. But I want to hear from you. What are some of the concerns that you have about those two in particular?
Thank you for saying that. I want to, if it's okay, I would like to say that we have Fetterman and Oz. We also have Mastriano, who's a fascist, saying it out loud. Thank you. And he is. And also Shapiro, who is our current attorney general. I have been working with him. I think that we've found in research that the Democrats literally set us up with these crazy candidates. And I don't know how to explain it to people, but like when you see that the Democrats actually funded getting them on the ballot, it's like, why would you do that? Then you put up this like superstar candidate that everybody is so enamored by and saying we're the like progressive, when in actuality they're not. They're more conservative, which is what the Democrats. So what are the issues that I see with that? Yeah, you will. Oz doesn't live here, but 5 minutes maybe in Pennsylvania. He's from Jersey. He is a interesting doctor who can't even speak to the harms of fracking and health impacts of fracking. As a doctor, has no clue about it. So I do not feel comfortable with somebody like him. Fetterman is a person who literally walked, and I toured him on the Mariner East project. I toured him, and he promised us that we'd help us and use his position to like speak about public corruption, and we've heard nothing about that. So yeah, we're stuck with a bunch of interesting candidates, as well as an attorney general who looks like this superstar who is trying to help people in injustice areas by like going after fracking companies under environmental crimes, which only gives them a fine, a slap on the wrist, and then still permitting them to harm these communities to set up, the next layer of this petrochemical, or I call it state sanctioned violence. Not talking about how people are harmed, the trauma in it, the psychological impacts in it, not evaluating that. So that's what I have to say about the candidates. I love everything. I hate being the first person. You guys definitely, when you introduce yourself, I like how we catapult. You know, I didn't say the greatest things in the beginning, but y'all hit it on the head. You know, we're standing out here trying to call out something, but do it in a good way. Like walk in love. Like we're all in an oppressive state. We have to start saying we are all in an oppressive state, and there are reparations to be made and had like about people. So we can't just sit here and look at it equally and look at it more equitably. And yet we have to start admitting to ourselves that we're in this state. It start from there. And that's where I think we're having a problem, why people keep going back and voting for candidates that have harmed them. They're going to do that again here with Fetterman. So
Leanna, Arizona, I believe Lake is one of the candidates, and
Yes.
Tulsi Gabbard has just endorsed her, actually.
Yes, that is true. So Carrie Lake is running as for the GOP. She's a Republican. She also is Trump endorsed, and she openly says that the election was stolen, that Trump should now be the president of the United States. So that's where she's coming from, or that's where her campaign is coming from. She has made such a spectacle in Arizona that two debates, as far as I know, two debates have been canceled because they really could not guarantee that she was going to behave herself. And as far as the Democrat candidate, Katie Hobbs, she has openly stated that she refuses to debate Carrie Lake, which I don't blame her. Carrie Lake has been in media for almost 30 years. So 27 years she was on the local Fox channel here. So she has a lot of public speaking practice. And of course, she sounds more polished. So Katie Hobbs, her background is a social worker. And so while she does have the background, I think that she gives an air that she is uncomfortable in being in the public spotlight. And so the Democrats are calling her out on Twitter. Every time she posts something, there's at least 100 messages saying, why aren't you debating? So her base is not happy with her right now.
Okay. And Delilah, Beto and Abbott.
I know, right? You'd think I'd be a shoo-in considering the competition. You know, like they just show up to places and they're like, yeah, teachers should get paid more and, you know, veterans and thumbs up and let me take a picture in front of a Roe v. Wade, you know, banner and not endorse universal health care and be, you know, against autonomy. And Greg Abbott is just clearly a bigot that people are like, why do you talk more, you know, trash about O'Rourke? And it's like, first of all, he's been here a long time, taking a lot of people's money to do fuck all. I'm sorry, but like he's just not doing anything. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm here to represent you, but he doesn't represent people's values, and he doesn't follow through with any of the things he says he's going to do, and he's very little politically to speak in on behalf of his ability to get things done. So, you know, I mean, people are pretty fairly calling it out, and most people that I talk to are just like, I wasn't going to vote for either of them. I'm glad you're running, you know, because Abbott, again, like he's had this history, and he's in the news. Texas is in the news all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. SB 8 passed last year. I've been like ripping my hair out, you know, as like a healthcare worker, you know, and like seeing firsthand how damaging these laws are to women's health. And, you know, he's just a terrible person, and I could go on and on and on about what kind of a person Greg Abbott is, and he's proven himself to be. So yeah, this is the competition. I've got two millionaire centrists trying to say that they speak for a populace that is much more diverse than they are, much more working class, and honestly, you know, more real than they could ever try to be. You know, these people have millions of dollars. They're being coached on what to say and how to say it and what things to inflect their voice on and what issues. Like, as of I called it early. I was like, I'm running for governor on the Green Party ticket. It's happening. I'm doing it. I'm jumping through all the hoops. I'm filing, you know, like, it's hard. They make it hard on purpose for third parties to do anything successful down here. You know, so we've been doing all of that stuff, and it's like every time I bring up something, you know, just give it a couple of months and then he's going to be talking about it on, and it's like, I know you guys are paying attention to what we're talking about because you're trying to pander to people that look like me and are like me, and it's not going to work because people they're fed up with all this, you know what I mean? Like, we're probably going to have low turnout. That's what it's looking to be, but we don't know for a fact that we are or we aren't. You know, I've got a lot of friends in the medical field who are just like, I wouldn't vote for anybody else. I mean, like, I know you're a dedicated worker, you're a person that of ethics and morals, and, you know, we don't have to agree on everything politically. I know you as an individual care about other people, and that is more important than, you know, what fancy ad you have or how much money you pulled this cycle. Right. That speaks more than all of the paid propaganda. So, you know, yeah, I don't have much good things to say about either of them, and neither do most Texans.
So in reference to the Green Party, I mean, you already mentioned, you know, how difficult or the way that third party candidates are treated. We've talked about that multiple times, and it's a huge problem. The fact that people have to get to a certain percentage to debate, or the fact that depending on what state you live in, that may not even be an option, regardless if you're running as third party independent. We've also seen what has happened to people like Matthew Ho, who luckily he was able to beat like one of his lawsuits, but how they were just actually removing people's signatures that he had to collect as a third party candidate. For people who are not aware how that works, he had to collect a certain number of signatures. He exceeded that amount. So there are a lot of hurdles that come along with being a third party candidate. So one of the questions that is going to come your way, because this comes up, people are going to ask, do you feel like this is being a spoiler for the other candidate? And particularly what's happening right now in reference to Roe v. Wade and abortion, and the way that some of the states have already overturned that as well because of the Supreme Court overturn. Do you feel like a third party or independent candidate is actually going to make a situation like that worse? And yes or no, and why not? Christina.
Do I think it's not going to make it worse? We're not taking away from anything. So I hope, I don't know the yes or no answer. But like, no, if it's about like we're taking away, no. I think it's a perspective of a system that has controlled our minds and has used tactics of propaganda and fear-ridden and like kept us in a place. So everybody is easily like, when you're in an anxiety state, you're not, or panicky, and they keep us there, you're not making very well thought out decisions. And also those decisions don't even fall in line with free, prior, informed consent. So like, you're making decisions, and actually what we're seeing is not voting for people, they're voting against a person or a party, which is like, are you voting for something? So no, we're not. In fact, what third party people do is bring people to the polls that don't have a place to go. So they're not coming to the polls if they don't like these people, especially when anybody who's been in an abusive situation, you know, that you have experienced, that you continue to go back to your oppressor, your abuser, and you don't know you're doing it until you get out of it and you become a survivor. And we're seeing a lot of people like, I can't change anybody. I can only inform them and give them a place to go. I'm not going to force them. And we're seeing the two parties trying to bully people into voting. And I know what that looks like in an abusive situation. It's abusive. And anybody who has actually stepped out and became survivor knows they cannot ever go back to it. Like, your heart, you know it, no matter what. And that's your truth inside of you, and stuff you've learned, things you've learned in your life. And I will never, ever tell a person that they don't have the right to vote for the candidate, especially when the two candidates who have harmed them are the only choices they feel like they have. We have got a duty to be a place, a safe place. Whatever they try to do to attack me, I've got this. Like, I got this, we got this. Because you know what? Go ahead, show me the data. You're not looking
All
at
right.
all the data. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Leanna and Delilah, how do you feel about that?
I'll go. If you're asking me if there's any way to spoil, you would first have to prove to me that the individuals were going to vote for one of the duopoly in order for me to be convinced that I would have spoiled the vote. So what third party and independent and Green Party and libertarians and those individuals actually, just like PK said, we actually bring voters to the table who otherwise were going to be disenfranchised from the process because there is no option. And I would have to counter that question because it is a common question. So thank you for allowing us to answer this question. But my first answer to that is we should be able to vote for someone and the policies that their campaign that we believe in. And so I would have to ask, in the past, have your candidates or the party of your candidates been able to bring progressive policies that you are seeking? And if the answer to that is no, then absolutely Greens are not spoilers because we are bringing people to the table and we're giving a voice to individuals who have been disenfranchised from this process.
Delilah?
Yeah, I have heard that question a lot too, and it's pretty important to discuss it because the presumption is that these people would give their vote to either candidate that they're not partial to. So, it's a pretty sexist, patriarchal way to view voting, right? Like, oh, this block is definitely going to vote for this group because, and then you start really thinking about it. And none of these people really do follow through on their progressive issues. I did a Medicare for All march last summer, and I was the only person to do one. And I got a lot of crap from some of the other organizers and groups down here because they were like, oh, we're going to do our own. And I was like, okay, do it. I'm the more the merrier, more people talking about universal health care. It's fine. I even, offered an olive branch to Democrats and other people. And some came and they, gave them a space to speak on it. And the thing is, because I didn't schedule one this year, this summer was like really busy for me, and I wasn't able to get, the organizational demands to do the march again. Nobody did one. And so it's like every time I'm like, oh, well, I mean, are you worried about the Democrats? Are you worried about the Republicans? Or are you worried as an independent voter? Because, the question is going to come up, you're a spoiler? How do you speak on that? And it's like, if I'm trying to spoil a toxic relationship, as VK was mentioning, with this really sadistic love affair with the corporations and the billionaires, okay, I'll claim that. Like, I'll be whatever you want to call me as long as you care about the issues, right? Like, instead of calling me a spoiler, what's most important to you? And who do you think is going to represent that on the ballot? Because half of the time, they're not trying to really meet the people's demands. They know they don't have to. They assume that people are going to keep voting into these really corrupt systems and that they're not they're not passionate or empowered enough to vote for themselves and things that they care about. And so, yeah, it's like I could talk about this all day long because people really, they're like, oh, how do you feel about that? Or what do you say to that? And it's like, if you want me to spoil this, system that oppresses and harms people, I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not worried about being called names. I grew up in Texas. I don't care about those things, but what I want to know is what do you really care about? And instead of asking me, do I feel like a spoiler? Do you feel like anybody's actually trying to represent you? Do you feel like anybody, like, are any of the things that you care about on the ballot? And often it's not. They'll say maybe one or two things, but we're all being propagandized all the time by the media. We are all being fed, half truths or, lesser evil. You don't have to
Right.
vote for any evil at all. You don't have to
Right.
pick that for yourself. You should just, you know what I'm saying? And third parties, in fact, bring these issues up to the table. We're the ones pushing them first, and we're the ones being consistent on where the line is, whether you're a humanitarian or not. And it's a good thing because these policies are important and people should feel empowered to vote for the policies that matter to them, not the party that seeks to exploit them.
That's a good point, Delilah. I know, Christina, you wanted to jump in here about movements. So you just need to, I'll unmute you really quick. There you go.
It was Delilah. I love you. You're such an inspiration. And I'm glad that we met. When we talk about movements, I'm Michael Badges Cannon and he's my running mate. We decided we don't have the money to do tours, so we decided to go around to local communities and speak to activists that have been working from that community, not the NGOs, but the activists who works within the community, and ask them what the issues are that they see, because with the Green Party here, we're aware of what our chances of winning are. And so we're utilizing this platform to organize locally and try to inspire and tell people about these disparate or environmental justice areas and what these people have been dealing with. And we just basically gave them the mic and said, it's your show. And I learned so much. And one of the statements is that actually my friend Frank. He's a fellow nonviolent direct action buddy. We've done some things together. I trust him, and he said that XRs, while we're working in this, he's realizing that we have in activism a lot of conflict within our own movement, and we have to get these groups together. I'm working with March on Harrisburg, which is Reverend Michael Pollock, who's done some amazing things about anti-corruption gift ban. He even said it, everybody here is not talking. We have a system we're fighting, right? And we have to be a bigger system. And so a movement of all movements is kind of what we need to be looking at. Essentially, climate does bring us all together, but there's so many issues. It starts with oppression. When we talk about oppression, and in that, a massive problem why we fight is because we're not dealing with grief. And they have grief circles that they're making a thing that people are coming in, until we get these communities strong foundationally to move and get up and make it not look so trauma. We have to start healing and dealing with grief and hearing people's stories and where they are at. And so and also conflict revelation groups, not resolution, because it's too late at that point, but revelation and understanding. They are always throwing those, you see it in our running as Greens, how they try to throw stuff at us to cause divisiveness and get people to look at the negative versus looking at what we are doing. And we have to get away from that individually, foundationally, and have a very strong self-care and spiritual aspect, a foundational aspect, and hear and heal and repair the people within our movement and elevate voices, right? How are we doing that when we're getting attacked? It's taking away our energy. So he was just addressing that. We have to have a movement of all movements. It's really hard. All of you here, I agree, I'm assuming, have gone through and seen groups fighting within your own community. It's so hard to organize. Mm-hmm. People have so much, and we're not addressing foundational aspects. Let's get there. Because if you build on top of a foundation that's faulty, the foundation is going to crumble eventually. And everything we do, Band-Aids and whatnot, is just kind of keeping breadcrumbs, it's just keeping us alive. And that's what we see in society. They're just keeping us happy. Oh, here's some college debt relief. Why are you not relinquishing all college debt?
Right.
So it's that idea of that. And so we as a movement have to address the things we see outside within it and create our own strong foundation. We become the stronger thing through that. So we have a foundational issue in our movement, I think. And that comes a lot with, our Black and Brown, especially the Indigenous, where I came from. There has been so much harm, and they have been so strong in coming and going to our place, our movements. But what has happened prior to that? They have to see that a lot of us white privileged people weren't out there fighting for them, but here they are helping us. We have to see what that feels like. We're not supposed to help somebody. We're not supposed to how can we help you? It's our duty to understand how to help somebody by understanding what has gone on. So like people who are privileged, like you don't ask somebody who's already been traumatized, has to deal with this all the time. How do I help you?
Yeah.
That's our job. And so the movement has to understand and educate people how to have that sensitivity. And grief is huge, because this is why we're letting go of something that we lost, something we knew, we were programmed, whatever it is, but that cuts through so many layers. So I just want to say that we did that tour and I didn't think anything would come. Our tech was terrible. We didn't get anything out of it, video, but the experience me and Michael had alone with these individuals, I am so happy for running. That's what I get to learn from this. So where do I go from there? I'm changing. I'm like, let's get our foundation together. I don't know. I'm so proud of both of you, by the way. And thank you for having us on here. Just giving us a voice is amazing. And I talk a lot, so these two know. I get like emotional because I don't know how I got here, but finding people like you like really answers why. So I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm grateful. Thanks for giving me the space. Sorry.
This kind of leads into something too. And I know, Liana, you wanted to talk about the policies. Now, when we talk about these progressive policies, so to speak, which I believe a lot of these progressive policies have been watered down once they've been brought into the Democratic Party. One of the things that I've been telling people is that if you want to vote for someone who's progressive, that there are also progressives that are running in the Green Party. And if you would look at the platform that the Green Party has, the Green Party platform is actually more progressive than the Justice Democrat platform, which a lot of us came from that. So just to give you guys an idea, a lot of us came from that Bernie Sanders, Justice Democrats like movement. And so I want to get your take on this, Leanna, in reference to the policies. Do you feel like some of these policies, like the Green New Deal, for example, because that came from the Green Party, do you feel like they have been watered down when they're taken in through the hands of a progressive going into the Democratic Party?
Thank you for the question, first of all. And that is a difficult answer to say yes or no. So what I saw was the Sunrise Movement picked up the Green New Deal, and they used that to get certain progressive Democrats into Congress, into the Senate, which was great. However, you referenced the watering down part of it. I don't think they actually had a plan. I think they had a catchphrase, and I think they had some ideas around it, but I don't think that they actually had a plan. So that's why every time AOC would talk about the Green New Deal, she would consistently say, and we're going to create a plan. So they never actually had a solid plan. And as far as the policies are concerned, I believe it was Delilah that touched on education. Voter education for me is very important, especially around learning about what the Green Party platform actually brings to people. I think it's important that voters understand some of the language that is used to make a policy appear as though it is progressive when it's really not. And I'll give you a really quick example. Katie Hobbs, on her policy specifically for helping individuals seeking housing, Arizona has a serious housing problem right now. And we do have a lot of individuals who are unsheltered. And I personally feel that that is criminal. I do not feel that this country should not have anyone sleeping on the streets, much less children. No one should go to bed hungry at night. We're the richest country in the world, and there is absolutely no reason that one person should spend one night outside unless they choose to. So that's where I'm coming from with this policy. And so when I read Katie Hobbs, the Democrats' policy on it, all of her three main points are talking about relieving taxes, giving tax breaks, or relieving the taxes on groceries, and then giving tax breaks on affordable housing, those two options still require a person to have a job. We still have over, 12% individuals who are of the working population right now in Arizona do not have a job and have lost their job during COVID or soon after COVID or as a result of COVID. So the reality is we have a group of individuals who were severely impacted by events that were outside of their control. I personally feel that is the governor's responsibility, the state's responsibility to help its citizens, its residents, to first of all get just to an equal playing field with everyone else. So when we're talking about policies, my policies include everyone, not just the people who still have a job after COVID. We're talking about everyone in Arizona. And that is what I would like as far as educating voters. When you read the policies, the different policies between the Democrats and the Republicans, read who the policies are addressing. Are they addressing you in your specific situation? Are you out of work? Are you working 2 jobs? Are you between houses? Are you renting? Would you rather own a house? Those are the policies that are important to you. And you should be able to pick a candidate who represents your needs.
So one thing I do want to bring up, because we have to talk about the pros and we have to talk about the cons. And in reference to the Green Party, there was an issue with mandates. And I have to be careful how I talk about this on YouTube, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
There was an issue with the Green Party being pro mandate. And that has rubbed some people the wrong way. And I don't know if each of you also agree with that or not, but I want to hear your take on that, because I have to tell you, like, even for me, because I did notice that the Black Green Party, I believe this is a caucus in the Green Party, was actually against that. So now you have like this party, and then there's this split over this issue. So it's really important. I think that's something that each of you, like, on your campaign should address. I saw Delilah raising your hand. Go ahead.
Well, okay. So just to touch back on what you asked previously, do you feel like these policies are getting watered down? Yes, they are absolutely getting watered down. Our climate goals are effectively, like, from the progressives' climate denial. If you're looking at the Democrats' platform, it's not enough. Everybody should have just acknowledged that it's not enough. These movements get co-opted. That's why I support the Red Deal, because it includes land back. It includes, making sure that Indigenous people are made the stewards of the land, and it really just kind of incorporates like all of our, like, the police state occupation, all of the things. And so that's why early on I was really supportive of that, and that's really something that's important to me. And honestly, a lot of this is greenwashing, right? So like Elon Musk lives in my state.
Yeah.
He resides in the town that I was born. I heard he paid to get a mural of himself put up, so of course a billionaire would do that. And he's like, electric vehicles is the wave of the future. We're going to solve the climate crisis with electric vehicles. When, first of all, that is stupid, because what do you have to do to make these batteries? You have to mine lithium. We already exploit. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because if your policies and the things that you are supporting, either through your vote consent, support through media, financial ties, whatever, happen to be the same that exploits the global south and most of the population that is living in this country, then you are effectively not on the side of progress. You are against it. So, I get really frustrated talking about these billionaires, because they, a lot of the media, even on the left, is like, fanboying over, you know, these rich people. They're idolizing these people, and they're so far removed from the struggles of regular working class people. You know, it's like, why are you holding water for these people? So as far as the mandate goes, I myself, as a healthcare worker, people that I worked with, and I endorsed that statement from the Black Caucus as well. I was like, I'm on your side here, because, you know, you go from these marginalized communities knowing that women are more likely to be exploited than anybody else. You have forced hysterectomies of people in ICE detention. We have missing, murdered Indigenous women all over the country. All of these colonial and capitalistic occupations and processes that we are all forced to live under are harming us and our communities. So when the vaccine came out, and you know, you have to consider the timing. We had already been through a year of COVID.
I'm sorry, Delilah. We got to call it jab on here. Sorry.
Oh,
we got to call it the jab. I'm
sorry.
It's okay.
So when they were talking about the jab, and you know, it had already been a year of COVID, right? I don't know if you all remember. I remember it too well because I was in it, and we had things happen that I had never seen and was never trained for. And it happened every single day, and everybody has been on a level traumatized from doing that. They're like, oh, we have all these people leaving the job, healthcare forces. That's when they made the comment about, you know, human capital, and because they're talking about us, our labor, the workforce. So when they said, oh, we're gonna make you get this jab or you lose your job, a lot of us had already we'd had it. We were like, you know what? Fine. You go a couple months without us, and then you tell me how you're feeling about that. And so coworkers and myself led a protest, and I'm actually on the news locally for doing that, because a lot of people were like, we all watched it. When this is what happened, I was at work. One of my friends texted the news and was like, they're laying all these people off because of the jab, right? The mandate. And so the news reached out and they're like, well, we want your perspective. Please tell us about what's going on. And they interviewed us, and I was on my break when I went to go do my interview, and that was my last day. They were like, you don't have a job anymore. And I had been working with that company for 18 years. So yeah, it was when the conversation started happening about what is Green Party going to say in regards to the mandates. First of all, they had no reason to bring that up, because it should be an individual choice. It's actually against our platform to support something that is against people's autonomy. So that was a moot point, and it was very divisive. And, you know, I suspect that people in a desperation to stay relevant wanted to pick firmly one side or the other, and that was never their business to do that. So me as a candidate, I made myself very clear that I was against the mandates. As a professional and a worker, I did that as well. And, you know, as far as the Green Party, we actually lost a lot of numbers. We lost supporters, we lost money because of that statement. You know, that really wasn't reflective of marginalized communities and people of color, such as myself, or hard workers. So, you know, that's just that is a thing that I can speak on because I was very involved. And, you know, yeah, it did cause a fracture, I think, within the community. And I think, you know, at some point it'd be nice for them to retract it or say, you know, maybe we just should have waited for the information, yada, yada, something to show, you know, the humility and the humble aspect that we all should have. And yeah, for me personally, like, I made myself very clear how I felt about it. And it is what it is.
Well, let's bring in Christina here, because someone at the Green Party made that decision. Someone made that decision to speak for the entire organization, and now it's kind of like this is what people know. It's just like that memo went out and it came from the party as a whole. So someone made the decision to speak for the party. Christina, I want to go ahead and bring you in. You'll just have to let me unmute you. Okay.
Party or not, I'm a scientist. I'm also somebody who has autoimmune. My mother has lymphoma. She has no antibodies. vaccinated herself. So we come from a different perspective. And as a scientist, this is what I say. This is interesting. How are you going to mandate something when this actually has so much unstudied stuff? We can get into all the conspiracy theories, but I'm going to say one thing. As a governor, if they're going to put mandates down in my state, I say no. We have fracking fossil fuel infrastructure where there's kids dying of cancer. They're not even addressing autoimmune. We have air pollution that causes inflammation. And as a healthcare worker, Delia, I'm pretty sure you know. So we don't even have an understanding of the state of the health of the people here. And when you have people like me who had to like be looked at as an anti-vaxxer because I couldn't get it, which I was grateful for in the time, like everybody doing their due diligence to protect me and my mother. I get the idea, but still the choice is the point. This state does not even care about half the things, nor does it recognize environmental justice areas who are probably having asthma and whatnot, but they're getting asthma from what? The stuff that you're also subsidizing while you mandate things that are killing people. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't profit off us and make us the sacrificial lambs. It's like modern slavery. Like they're telling people what to do because they want us to work. My life matters to me, matters to my mother. Okay. Like I've seen people die in this. And so I am so standing up. I had a mother last night say, PK, I'm voting for you. And she's got kids and they're mandating that kids have to be vaccinated. She's got an autoimmune. Her children probably have it because it's passed down, which I know now from my mother. We have autoimmune. We have diabetes. Like, so it is a genetic link that's not being talked about. When you put pollution in unhealthy environments, you're increasing inflammation, which just exacerbates everything. Does this vaccine have any studies that shows how it has impacted those people? I mean, we're super careful. I couldn't take the flu vaccine, actually was caused me to have a reaction. So I'm scared and I have a right to, so my doctor stood behind me. I listened to the qualified people. And when I have that data and I make my own fully informed decisions, I will consent to whatever, as long as it's free prior informed consent, I will go back to that. So the healthcare workers, you're in very particular situations. We're making it too compartmentalized. The truth being is that this state, as a governor, I have control over those mandates. I will veto anything that comes anywhere near it until this state decides to study the health impacts, the health and safety of the people, or what is going on with people's lives. Care about the people first, not force them so that the economy runs, which is a Ponzi scheme in itself. We all know it. So I care about the people. I'm here to I'm a public servant. I have no other choice than to serve the public. So if some mother comes up to me and says, you better not do this, you know what? I will never say anything. Nothing goes by my desk unless there is science to actually support it. That's it. That's as simple as it goes. I'm not going into the politics and the conspiracy theories. I'm going into the stinking science. That's the truth. They don't know what's going on here in Pennsylvania. They want to put us into a justice area. So they want to poison us. And then they want to put something that's actually showing that their people with autoimmune are having very bad long-term COVID effects, which I have Lyme disease. We all lived before COVID ever became with long-time chronic Lyme. Nobody cared about us back then. And now we have what's called post-treatment Lyme. Not long-term. It's the same thing that I'm seeing with COVID. So I support.
We're going to try to use, I'm sorry, we're going to try to use pandemic and
I'm
jab.
sorry. I didn't
It's
do
okay.
it well. It's too passionate. I apologize. It is pandemic. And actually, you're right. Can I please address that? I apologize for saying that. And I'm not focusing on this because we're going to see a lot of other issues like this, like Lyme. Let's bring back. There's several endemic and pandemic issues. We have to start thinking about how we handle them as a whole, not each individually, right? So you're absolutely right by saying, let's keep it to that. That's a good thing to think about. Keep it to the word pandemic because this is going to happen again. If we have policy that's specific to COVID, I'm sorry, this one disease, this one thing, we're not learning how to protect communities. We're not learning from at all. When you look at it as this is an issue that's going to occur, let's have a foundational response to it. Like, a scientific and as well, definitely like talking about the the ancestral and, by the way, generational damage that has been done, because we all know that genetically people are getting weakened when they have children. It can actually impact them. We have to talk about this. You can't just throw something into people without that aspect being addressed. So
Okay.
yes, thank you for correction.
Okay, let's let's bring in Liana. I think I had muted you because I think I heard a noise in the background, but I think it's gone now. What is your take on this, on the statement that the Green Party made, and how do you feel about that?
How I feel about it, it was very unfortunate that the statement went out, because mandating individuals to either take a medication or wear a piece of clothing in order to participate in our society is not the type of society that I want to live in, nor do I want to push people to live in a society where they feel obligated to live or act a certain way. And so the reason why I say that it was unfortunate is, my personal opinion is that the individuals on the steering committee who put the statement out did not think about the long-term effects, not only of making the statement, but also how difficult it would be in the future for those of us who are running as candidates to be able to answer for this. My personal opinion is that the Green Party does not, as a whole, support mandates, whether that be mask mandates or jab mandates. So that's why I say that it's unfortunate that that statement went out, because I do believe the majority of Greens are against mandates.
Do you agree with mandates?
No, I do not. I do not think that even the passport. So I did say that I would answer the question very quickly, but I do want to point out that we are talking about a period of time where those of us who worked in the public space, I worked in a kitchen, in a vegan kitchen. I was a cook, and in order to be in public spaces, we were also scared of catching the illness and dying, or catching it and taking it home and giving it to someone who we either were close to, or someone who was a relative that had either were also sick, or they had autoimmune disease. And those individuals, with the different information that was coming out from the CDC, and am I allowed to say from Fauci, because that's where this all started from, was the information going out to the American public was not the truth, and people caught on to that right away. And so there were many people who were scared. There were many people who wanted to be able to stay at home and allow the pandemic to run a 6-week course. And fortunately, those of us who had to work, who could not just stop working and hope that our $400 in the bank would last for 2 months, we had to place ourselves in a situation where we were in danger and the health of our loved ones were in danger. So I want everyone to remember that the individuals who wrote the statement from the Green Party were also part of that group of individuals who were simply scared of their life and scared for the life of the ones that they loved. So when we are put in a position where we are struggling to figure out what the truth is, yes, of course, some individuals are going to err on the side of super caution so that they can maximize the amount of people that they feel that they can help. And I think that's the reason why the statement was made.
But do you personally support it? And I'm asking because Delilah and Christina publicly, they've said they don't support that. Do you support it?
I do not.
Did you before?
No.
Okay. You're sure about that? And I'm asking because I have information that says otherwise.
Okay.
At one point or another, were you in favor of that?
Of mandates?
Yes.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so this is a problem. And like I said, 110%. I'm 100% for third parties and independent candidates. I've seen this happen already before. I've seen it happen with MPP, and then we have the Green Party, and this particular issue is a hot button for people. This mandate issue. The other particular issue with the Green Party is also what happened in 2020 with Jesse Ventura and Howie Hawkins. And I've talked about this on the show multiple times. Different people have come on offering different opinions. And one person says this is what happened. One person says something else happened. And so it seems like to me, I'm seeing some of the same issues that I did see with MPP, which is the sense that I'm getting different messages from different people that are part of the same party.
Fair enough. Definitely, if I have not made an official statement on my website for that, that is definitely my own oversight. And I will fix that with my campaign in a few days. And as far as anything that I may have said on social media before I became a candidate, I really don't think that there's anything out there that indicates that I would have supported a mandate had I been in a position to make that decision. So this is part of the process, and I appreciate you challenging me, because we're not, as far as the perfect candidate, the only way to make a political campaign work for the individuals that you are representing, that requires me or any candidate to reach out to the individuals that you choose to represent and negotiate that, of course. So I do appreciate you challenging me on this, and it definitely is an oversight that I have not made it clear where I stand on mandates. But I have never supported mandates. I would never force anyone. In fact, there was an incident in Tucson, which is here in Arizona. The city of Tucson took a stand to force individuals who worked for the city, and it was the October, I believe, in 2021, where they were set to fire about 30 individuals who worked for either the state or the city. And that was, there were a lot of people who were protesting that. There were individuals I don't live in Tucson, but there were individuals who were in the Green Party that live in Tucson, went to that protest. So that's the only thing that I can tell you. As far as, I definitely am opposed to mandates, whether that be masks or medications, vaccines.
Okay,
Sorry.
a quick question for the panel as well. Kirsten Sinema, and I just have to, and Leon, this is your state as well. Kirsten Sinema, here's someone who originally was a part of the Green Party. She said she approved of a $15 minimum wage. Like again, I've interviewed a lot of people. I've had a lot of candidates come on this show. And I got to tell you, I hear good things from them when they're running. And then you look at someone like Kirsten Sinema, who was a Green, supported $15 minimum wage, and then went in through the Democratic Party and voted against the $15 minimum wage and voted against other things as well. Mm-hmm. And so she's the one that people point to and will tell me, well, you can't trust the Green Party candidates either, because look at what happened to Kirsten Sinema. And I want to get you guys' like response to that, because with me, like, I don't play like favorites. Like when it comes to like candidates, politicians, I don't play favorites. Like I will ask tough questions. How do you prevent something like that happening again?
So let me just say that I'm glad that you're an indie journalist and you ask the hard questions, because people are so comfortable skirting around the issues. These politicians, career politicians, are so good at avoiding answering the goddamn question, and it's frustrating. So, I mean, I get that. As far as Green Party is concerned, we have a decentralized model. So I cannot tell you the conversations that I've had with people about simple things that there should be no debate on. When I first started, right, and I declared early because I knew that there was going to be a financial barrier, and I knew, you know, as a working class mother, it was going to be hard, and that's why I started early, because I knew I had to get in there to get to where I needed to be, you know, to answer hard questions like that. And, you know, as far as Howie Hawkins and Jesse Ventura goes, like, we do have structures in place that are supposed to keep everything fair. And what we have, and you bring up Kristen Sinema, and every time I think about her, I'm like, she is exactly the person. I have only turned one interview down, and it happened to be because it was a white, rich, liberal woman who wanted to interview me, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be interviewed by you because I know what you're about, and I have nothing to align with you on, because there's a small group. You know how it is with conservatives, right? They're a smaller group. They're louder. They're better organizing. They're better funded. And so and I really have a hard time with these like wealthy elite liberals, like the brunch liberals who are like, oh, sure, I endorse that policy. We've got to get the black vote. You just said that. Like, you just said that with no shame. And it's gross. It's disgusting to me. And so I don't actually have the stomach to do this perpetually, because it's very, it turns you into something. Anything where money and power is involved, there's going to be a lack of integrity, I think, depending on who the person is. You know, all of us, I would hope that, should we be elected into our offices that we're running for, would follow through on everything we're saying we're going to follow through on. And, you know, a lot of the times people, especially if they're well funded, they just get to go in, say a few slogans, take a few photo ops, leave, and never think about those people that they exploited for money ever again. And, you know, I think when you have actual working class candidates, people who know what it's like to have to worry about paying for a medical emergency, you're going to find that integrity that we're missing in the mainstream media politics space, because that space is taken up by these people of privilege who paid for their privilege, who paid for your consent, who paid for you to like them. And they have no intention of following through on any of their promises, because they're not at risk of suffering from lack of these policies. So as far as Green Party is concerned, listen, I'm sure if you ask people about me, you're going to find two types. You're going to find people who like me and people who are like, I don't like her. And every single one who's like, I don't like her, they don't like me because I held them accountable. They don't like me because they don't know how to deal with their white guilt. They don't like me because I keep on focus of the struggle, because I know that struggle. It's universal. If you are unable to tap into that, that is not my problem. That is their problem. And so, you know, I understand the frustration with, you can't trust politicians. Good. Keep that mindset. Why should you be cozened into sending $30, $40, $50? Like, I like Bernie Sanders too, you know, like, he seems like a sweet guy. Would I ever give him money again? No. Would I ever vote for him again? No. I learned my lesson. I think all of us are in this place where we're having to learn our lessons about these people who get paid to lie to you. And you know, I'm very fortunate that I have good instincts about people. I'm either going to work with you or I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I try to be fair. I try to be unbiased and impartial. But the truth is, if we're not going to line up on the most essential things like human rights and autonomy and, you know, living wages and people, healthcare and housing as a human right, I'm not going to waste my time with you, you know, because there's no progress to be made there. So that's all I have to say about it.
Delilah, this is for you. Thank you for the super chat, Lucy. Delilah, if you debate Beto, can you call him Bob?
Okay, Lucy. I can't call him Bob because we've been calling him Robert O'Dork among my circle. So I don't think we're gonna change our name now. It's already been too long. We're dedicated to that one, so sorry.
I want to get your take on this, Christina. How do you prevent like another Kirsten Cinema happening again? Oh, I have to unmute you. I'm sorry. You're muted. Uh-oh. I
I
don't know what
got
it
you.
did.
Hi.
Okay.
I did myself. Yes, Delilah. You guys got it. Let's just. So how do I prevent it? By being myself. Like I realized I can't change this system, and so like I like realized you guys are talking about all this Green Party backlash, and I walked in here literally they were just like, hey, I was an independent. They're like, hey, will you just like run for governor, because I was messing around out here doing things, and I was like at this point where I'm like, you know what, I want to do the governor thing, because you know what, I know what I can do if I had power, and I've seen what I've not been able to do. I would love a third party candidate be in charge of my state, who is literally like two children fighting the two-party system. I would like to see what happens when you have an independent. It has no bound to that, and how I could protect and walk across party lines to the women senators, the people who are putting themselves out there but are in the patriarchy, getting harassed by their parties and stopping them from doing anything, threatening schools in their communities because they stick up for somebody who's getting killed by cancer from fracking. They go through this every day. I would be able to protect them and create like my own things. I was absolutely took it in a second. Now, where I was a little bit naive was like, okay, the Green Party, love the pillars, love all that. Learned about some of the stuff I keep getting that I didn't know. Naivety is great, because you know what I'm gonna do? I walk like in this innocent way as much as I can. I'm an adult, obviously, but I'm kind of like, cool, like I could do this, like, and then I'm like, Howie Hawkins actually. I'm just like, you said, did you say this? You were asking Leanna about what she said, and I'm like, oh, you made me think. I'm like, I was like stupid and nervous too in the past, but then it struck me differently. The whole I'm sorry, the pandemic and the jab. Got it. And so like it hit me differently, and I was like, what did I was I was nervous about getting into it, listening to people. Here's the difference in Pennsylvania. We have minor party status here, and so I get to be my own candidate. And the Green Party endorsed me. I don't have to run on their platform. So guess what I didn't have to do? Agree with that platform. The statement that U.S. Green said, I stayed away from vaccines like the plague here because of what's going on, and because I was still trying to figure out what I needed to say as a candidate. And I'm going to go right to what I said again and again. Show me the data. I'm going to advocate as a scientist. That's what I bring to this table. Like, I'm not letting people be harmed, their health or anywhere. So, you know, how do we prevent another candidate like that? Yourself. Stop looking at it. Like, don't be afraid. Like, you're right. They can't harm me. I don't care. Bring it up to me. If I made a mistake, I love it because I learned from it. You know, I'm not great at this. So this is what I want to leave with you guys. You guys know when you go into like, I think it was like in most jobs I've been in, they're like, you're greenhorn because you're new, you're a newbie, you're green. Isn't that weird how we're called the Green Party? I just want to lay that out there real quick, because I remember being in jobs. I did a lot of, labor jobs and whatnot. And they were like, you're so green. And I was like, what does that mean? They're like, you're so new. And I'm like, okay. So I just think about what that is. If you want to look at the history of the Green Party, I understand what it's about, but we're also talking about parties that are calling themselves the Red Tide, Blue Wave. We went from donkeys to elephants. Now everybody's like, oh no, that Green Party. Maybe there's something to look about. The patriot, it's in our own party. I was an independent, so we have a lot to do. I call it out where it's at and be your own individual candidate. That's what this is about. This is a movement of getting people informed. We don't need to tell people to do. It's kind of boring. It takes a lot of effort. Okay? Go do your own research. We need to encourage that. And we have a duty to inform people. We want everybody to vote based upon empowering them is like having the full information. And then as adults, vote for who they want. I have no say. I love it after that. Listen, you don't agree with me, that's fine, but at least you're informed when you vote. What hurts is when you know people are voting uninformed and they're so far behind. They're so with it and they're harming themselves. So I agree with Delilah. Like, I don't know what to do.
Thank you for the super chat, Steve. Howie, are you effing? serious? Give me a break. And thank you for the super chat as well, Steve. Greens had one chance to win. Jesse Ventura, F these people. That wasn't very
Hey,
nice, Steve. But
you know what? Jesse had plenty of time to run
Yeah.
and follow the process, and he didn't. Okay, Jesse Ventura's cool. That's great. But again, we can't stop. We have to stop putting all this gravitas behind celebrities.
Yeah.
Oh, they're garnering support. They've been on the news. Let's just throw all of our party's financial resources and support behind these people when they haven't been good community stewards. What did Jesse Ventura do for his community before he wanted to declare that he was running for president? I have not heard a single person say anything that he's
Mhm.
done. And that's a problem that we have. We don't offer enough support for actual working class candidates. I'm tired of chasing celebrities. It's gross. You know, that whole little AOC stunt the other day with her dancing on the stage, she's disillusioned. She thinks she's special. We made her feel that way. Stop
Mhm.
uplifting these people who don't get it. I'm tired of it. So, Steve, thanks for the money. Keep sending money to Sabby, but I'm gonna call you out on your bullshit.
I think he's probably asking that because I did interview Jesse on here.
I know. I watched it.
Yeah, yeah. It's there's two different sides of that story, but Jesse's response about that particular situation was different.
I bet it was. You know, that's the whole perspective of being a man who people adore, and you know, your perspective is that you're special and you can do no wrong, and that's just really cute. But a lot of us are tired of it. You see all of these women candidates coming up, all these poor working class people, medical workers coming up because we're tired of that. You should not get any more. Like, I don't care if you don't like Howie. If Howie followed the process to get endorsed and get, you know what I mean? That's fine. Like, I'm not trying to hold water for anybody, but the situation seems to be we should have picked the celebrity because, you know, we would have definitely won. Would we
Well,
have?
I think it was more so the fact that Jesse Ventura. I mean, he was governor. You know, he did
I
win,
know.
not
I
running
know
through the
that.
through the two
And he
party
was also
system.
Trump's friend, you know? I know
Well,
that too.
I think the thing was is he had eight at one point when if I remember correctly, he had at least like what 17 or 18% of people would have voted for him at that time. So
Yeah.
I think that was the thing. I think the argument that people make is the fact that we all knew that Howie Hawkins was not a good choice. And I can't even remember how many times Howie Hawkins has run for office, but Howie Hawkins
Yeah.
wasn't a good choice. And I think that when you have someone like Howie come on to RBN and say, well, in the end, you just got to vote for the Democratic Party because they're the lesser of two evils. That statement right there is the reason why some of these third party candidates are having such a tough time trying to win. Now, Greens have won like on the local level, but if the own person who's running for the party is telling you to vote for Joe Biden in the end because the Democrats are the lesser of two evils, that actually hurts the Green Party and it hurts any other type of third party movement.
Elephant in the room. Green Party shoots itself in the foot more times than I could count. I've been here for 2 years. You know why I joined? Because nobody was doing anything in my state. I was worried about the climate crisis. I was worried about all these things, and nobody was organizing here. That's why I got involved in the first place. So there's a huge void, you know, in this space, and unfortunately, it gets filled up sometimes with people who don't really understand what's at stake. And I'm tired of Democrats being in this party saying, I mean, I heard even the Socialist Party was like, oh, we got to go knock on doors for Democrats. It's like, you know, quit voting for any evil. Like, I'm not, again, I met Howie. He's okay. I don't like his campaign manager. I'll say that publicly because I don't care. There's so many layers upon layers upon layers of crap to get through. You know what I'm saying? I have like 12 people that I've met from this party that I'm like, you're cool. I like you. Let's be friends. And the rest, I'm just like, where's your head at? I don't know how we're supposed to make progress if your head's over here. So, like, I'm not trying to defend what's happened in the past. But I am trying to say that if people want change, they're going to have to be the ones to speak up for themselves. They're going to have to be the ones that are like, we want a better candidate. You know what I'm saying? And we don't have enough of that. And I'd like to see more of it, honestly.
Okay, I do want to round out with Liana, because you didn't get a chance to answer the question about preventing another cinema.
Okay, so I actually just forgot that was actually the question, how to prevent another cinema. I'm not sure how I can answer that question, Sabby, because cinema ran on the Democratic ticket. The Greens did in 2018, when cinema was on the ballot, the Arizona Green Party recruited an activist just like PK. We went out and we recruited Eve Reyes-Aguirre, who is a phenomenal activist, just a phenomenal human being. After she collected all her signatures and turned them in to the election office, there was a group of Democrats who went in and challenged the signatures, just like what happened with Matthew Ho just a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Eve Reyes, she didn't have enough money to fight them, and they actually they were going to sue her and her husband and try to take their house. That's what the charge is, that's what she was facing. And unfortunately, the Green Party does not have that type of money in order to fight those types of underhanded battles. And so we weren't able to, she pulled out, and there was another individual who stepped up and ran on the Green Party ballot line, and that person was harassed and threatened so many times that she ended up pulling out of the election 3 days before the actual election on 2018 because of the harassment that she was receiving from Sinema's office. And so when you ask me, how can I prevent another situation like that? I tell you, how can you stop the harassment for third parties? When do Arizona voters are broken up into Democrats, Republicans, and third parties. Third parties roughly take up about 33 to 34% of the voting bloc in Arizona. That is more than a third. We deserve a place at the table, and we deserve to be included in debates, and we deserve to be included on the ballot. And that is how we prevent corporate Democrats from getting into office and continuing to implement policies that hurt the working class.
All right, well, guys, I realize I went over my time. I apologize, but thank you guys so much for joining again, guys. All Green Party candidates here, all gubernatorial races. We have Arizona, we have Texas, and we have Pennsylvania. So thank all of you so much for coming on. I hope it wasn't too mean, but I have to ask the tough questions.
Seriously, you are not mean.
You're great.
No,
we love you.
Not what we do it.
Thank you.
No, ask the hard questions, because
Yes.
you're helping us, right? You're helping prepare us. This isn't mean.
Yeah.
Don't look at that. Please be positive. You got this. You're doing great things too. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Full
Thank
heart.
you so much for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Sabby.
Lyle, yeah.
Bye.
Good luck, guys. Keep it up.